Anytime that I see a particularly fast player on whatever video is, quickly in the comments you see it devolve into a conversation about perhaps someone not feeling it, perhaps BB King saying more with two notes. And I wanted to ask the question, is it a waste of time to be focusing on shredding in 2024? This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. I just wanted to say before I get into this video that Patreon, £2 a month, you can get access to everything that I post on there. There are higher tiers if you want to pay more, but you get access to everything at the very bottom tier. But if you've ever wondered where my backing tracks come from, and I make them all, and I put a bunch of them on Patreon, and if you've got particular requests, I can do that as well. But yeah, £2 a month, hopefully that represents good value. That's also where I put the kind of tabs for my lick lessons that I do on a Monday. Obviously on this channel, I'm very interested in some of the technical aspects of guitar playing. In particular for me, these days, a lot of it is kind of focused around legato. But back in the day, I'm definitely one of these guys that was a lot into John Petrucci, a lot into Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and that sort of stuff. And I think there's probably a chunk of you guys who are watching who are also in that vein. There might be a bunch of you as well that are watching this that have kind of always felt like playing super fast kind of just turns you off and it's boring. And I can sort of see that point of view too, right? There are certain players who I might watch alternate picking their entire way through a solo with no gaps, and I think, well, that's not really for me. And I guess maybe that is the feeling that people that are really kind of not into shredding might get when they see guy, I don't know, like Guthrie Govan or whatever. You certainly see in comments sections like with Matteo Mancuso, Guthrie Govan and stuff like that, people saying, you know, various bits and pieces. Now, I do sort of sympathise with this in a way, because I've just tomorrow got a gig where I'm playing 39 songs, and a lot of them are going to be kind of Motown, a lot of Motown stuff, a lot of soul stuff. And at no point during the gig am I going to be calling upon my abilities to sweep pick. In fact, there's barely any lead playing in this set list at all, which is kind of a blessing in some ways, as I don't have time to learn 39 songs with complicated lead parts. There is one tune which we're going to be doing in E minor, which is going to be it's a Teddy Swims cover, Lose Control, and it's going to involve quite a lot of, I guess, that kind of feel playing. That was just an excuse for me to practice that, by the way. One of the very few lead parts that I'll be playing in the gig. And the other kind of moment that I'm going to try and pigeonhole a bit of a solo into is Going Loco in Acapulco, which I think is a Four Tops tune written by Phil Collins. There's like a little break in this tune where I can let something go. But probably what I'm not going to do during that solo is kind of sweep pick and loads of legato or loads of alternate picking stuff. What I'm probably going to do is kind of pretend I'm a saxophone player for the start of it, and then maybe at the very end of it, kind of let loose. Because I don't think necessarily, I guess most people that I'm trying to impress will be other people in the band. A lot of the people in the audience possibly won't be particularly that interested. Although, I don't know, I think there are certain audiences where they do appreciate a good guitar solo. Let me know your thoughts on that. I still think that, in particular, weddings are one place where a good guitar solo can go down really well, particularly when you're playing classics like Living on a Prayer. Like, people love to sing that solo, or Don't Stop Me Now, they love to sing that solo, or Don't Stop Believing. You know, there's a start of the start of that kind of where you're doing the that thing. That's kind of bordering on shred, right? But I think ultimately, as a guy who has met loads of other professional guitarists, been on gigs with other guitarists because I play keyboard and stuff, I do think that we do over-prioritize this idea of shred in some ways, but at the same time, we got to do something to keep ourselves interested, right? Because just power chords all the time maybe doesn't do that. But I think if there was one thing that I could have said to sort of 14-year-old me as I was going through my shred stage, it might be that you might want to spend some time focusing on things like feel and timing, because those were actually things that I found out that I needed to work on kind of on sessions, right? I used to spend a lot of time recording at home, but it wasn't until I kind of took a break from quite a lot of that, I was working, and then I got back into playing music, and Paddy, the bass player from That Pedal Show, kind of pointed out, he said, you're rushing a lot of this stuff, and things that I hadn't really thought about before, like how in time with the click am I? Or, can I play with a lazier feel? People like Corey Wong talk about like this super kind of gritty thing, and they talk about placing a note at the start or the end of the beat, and, leaning back on time and forward on time. Those are things that do not come at all easy to me. I'm specifically just focusing on trying to play in time quite a lot of the time, and it's something that I've had to work on. But those are things that I think quite early on it might have been better off than working particularly on sweep picking, which I never use, tapping, which I never use, alternate picking to some extent I don't really have to use on much stuff, although I think it's been really good for stamina and sort of, parts that some other people might kind of have some difficulty alternate picking for the whole song. I might get away with that a bit better just because when I was a kid I spent a lot of time doing this. But I certainly do think, and I'm definitely guilty of this, like, for me, what keeps me interested is kind of licks and flashy stuff, and that's what I'll post on Instagram, because that's apparently what people are more interested in than if I was just doing kind of rhythm playing. But I do think it's kind of important to remember that, especially when you're a gigging guitarist, that actually there's a time and a place for some of this stuff, and it's mostly in your bedroom. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think we over prioritize shred? At the same time, some of my favourite players and the players that I want to listen to most of all are able to mix up these elements, and players that never shred or don't ever play fast. For me, I don't get a ton out of that. Even if it's jazz players, the ones that I tend to like to listen to, if they're guitar players, Kreisberg, really great technical player. Gilad Hexelman has lots of flashy stuff in there. Julian Lage, lots of flashy, fast stuff. I think for me, and I guess this is different for different folks, what got me interested in guitar, other people it might be like Keith Richards and stuff like that, but for me it's kind of the pyrotechnics. So, but yeah, do I get to use it on most gigs? Not really. On my own gigs, we do like quite a lot of 80s stuff, so there is a chance to do some of that, but like this weekend, the gig that's paying the bills, 39 songs, maybe a couple of lead breaks, and most of the time I'm going to be having to kind of try and lock it down like Nile Rodgers, Motown kind of funky soul playing. So you have to learn to love that as well, I reckon. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you a shredder or are you a reformed shredder? Actually, as well, do you wish you'd got into shred a bit earlier? Because there was a couple of comments. Had a guy in the comments say that he'd come to this idea of shredding a bit later on, and he did find that he had to kind of change his technique and start kind of locking the elbow a bit. I thought it was an interesting comment, but it seemed like this guy had made some progress. Is this something that you still, for your own satisfaction? And if you're looking for backing tracks to play over, whether you want to shred over them or play tastefully, Patreon is the place where I put up most of my backing tracks when people ask for them. There's a whole, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of backing tracks posted there, and I write what key it's in and kind of the tempo and stuff. So if you want to jump in there for some backing tracks that hopefully will inspire you, yeah, Patreon, £2 a month, and you can get access to everything that I put on Patreon for that. Hopefully that's kind of good value.